Hi everyone. This is Sai from LetsUpgrade. So let's talk about how to get your certificate. It's very simple. You will see two links in the description. Number one is the place where you have to go and mark your attendance. Marking your attendance tells us like, okay, you are a legit student who have attended this particular session. Link number two is your assignment. This is where your 90% of the priority is. You have to go and submit the assignment that is given to you in this particular session. Once you're done submitting that assignment, we will be evaluating that. We will send you an email. If you get the passing criteria, then only we will give you the certificate on a particular date that is mentioned again in the description. Please check these three things, and this is the way how you will get a certificate from Let's Upgrade. Number one, mark your attendance. Number two, just go ahead and upload your assignment. Check for the email that you have received it, yes or no. What is the feedback that you have received from your trainer? Number three, check on which date the certificates will be released. Thank you. Bye. All the best. Happy learning.
So now that we have designed the screens, let's try to add some sort of typography in this whole layout. So basically, typography, as we discussed in the previous videos, that typography is just a representation of text, ensuring that there is a logical, a well structured hierarchy in the design. So, for example, if we take this page into consideration, there is a very clean title over here, and size wise, so as soon as this page comes in front of you, you read this line, then you see the input field, and because the button is disabled, the text is not really visible. It's of course not as clear as if the background color had been orange for this. So this is the section that you see last. So this is your visual hierarchy, and this is something that a designer has complete control over. In which order do we want the user to see our information? For example, I will probably see this image first, then I will observe that there is a logo on top, and then I will move downwards to the entire page. So this is something that has to be designed very logically, and every element has to have a certain place and has to have a solid reasoning that why did we choose this place or this alignment for this text. So for example, I initially started by keeping my text on the left, but you can see that since then I have shifted the layout and I have made my text centrally aligned. Now, the reason for doing this is because my elements, overall elements in the page, are centrally aligned. I have placed my logo in the center, and more than that, the image that I have selected has a very prominent uh, element in the center. So it does make sense that I keep this alignment throughout. So, for example, if we change the image a little bit, for example, maybe I put a very generic image which does not particularly have a focus point in the center. So, for example, let's use this image. Let's see what the design will look like if we use that image. I think I'm gonna have to reduce the size of the image a little bit. Okay, I think in order to fit it properly, that's okay. And maybe with this image, I can go either with a light theme or a dark theme. That is again completely up to me, but because we were initially going with dark theme, but then decided that because this is a mental health application, some sort of an application that restricts the user from using certain apps which can create distraction or cause stress in any way. So we chose to stick with light theme. But just to understand what the changes will be like if we switch back to a darker theme, let's select a color. Let's see what it looks like. So I've used a shade of green. It is not exactly black, it's somewhere in the middle. I'm gonna change the color to white, and this time my primary uh, that I'm taking is green, so that it looks a little serene, does not look very off. So just to reiterate, I'm not saying that we keep switching our primary color based on the image that we use. It's not really about that, but it's I think there is some double, okay, because this already has a frame of itself. Okay, yeah. So yeah, what it is primarily about is that if we are switching, if green is our dark theme, sorry, primary color, then the theme that we select, it cannot be a pitch black screen. So for example, this is what we get when we get pitch black. We don't necessarily need to go for that. We can change or use a variety of colors that are as close as black, and we can even add some sort of a gradient over here to kind of blend the image into the background, and we can add certain colors in the background with the help of layer blur. So select layer blur. I'm going to reduce the opacity for this to 20% and move all of these sections up. Okay, additionally, what I can also do is probably add a container behind all of this. So the three elements, the button, the input field, and the text, they are now in auto layout. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the width to 375, place my the entire content piece in the center. Now I think 78 is a little too much for the gap between them. I also want to add padding of 24 so that my information does not go beyond that this designated space. From top, I'm going to give a padding of, I want to say 70, and from the bottom, I can customize it for top left, bottom right. From the bottom, I'm going to give it 50. Now let's see what this looks like. Okay, and I think in this case, I'm going to have to extend my image, and okay, there's no background to this file right now. Okay, I'm gonna just select this color. I think I can increase the size a little bit more for uh, also increase the gap between them. Right now they don't have any gap between them. I think I should, yeah, keep even width between them. Okay, I think this design is coming out better than this one, so I'm just going to remove it, and I'm going to take this image, move it here, and increase the size a bit. Also don't need the layer blur at the top. uh, so over here the size is 24, and here I've taken 30. I think I can reduce it and maybe add a weight to the font. Alright, now I want this to appear like a card that comes from the bottom. So I can probably give it corner radius of 30 and add a separator over here, which kind of gives it the feel that this is a sort of a section separator over here. So now I think I probably need to reduce the margin from top. I think I can make it 40 or even 30. Yeah, I think this is good. Maybe reduce the opacity for this so that it's there, but it's not really obstructing my view for anything. Okay, I think this is good. I probably do need to add some sort of gradient over here or drop shadow to distinguish clearly between the background and the foreground. So I'm going to try -10. Blur can be 10 also. Okay, yeah, I think this is good. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to go into prototype mode. So how I have done that is by either clicking here or shift E. Shift E kind of helps me switch between the design and prototype mode. So I'm going to select this artboard, and as soon as I've selected it, you can see that there is a plus icon that appears. I'm going to drag and link it to screen 2. I'm just gonna change the name of this second frame to iPhone 13 mini hyphen 2. Now that I've linked them, I'm going to select smart animate and ease in. So what that does is we will see in just a minute. Okay, this is the screen. It's loaded completely. And as soon as I tap on this, because right now when I added my interaction, the trigger for it was on click. I can also do it automatic by selecting after delay, but that is something that we will do once we've gone through this manual interaction. So, okay, I'm going to click here, and you can see that this is the interaction. I can see that there was a slight glitch and it wasn't working as smoothly. That is primarily because the background color over here does not match the background color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just simply select this color, uh, all of this. I'm going to change it to match the background. Similarly for this, let's give it a try now. Okay, I think it's a little smoother, but maybe because there is that background image in the background, it is still showing up. So let's give it a try now. Okay, I think this was pretty smooth. This is kind of taking up some sort of shape. Let's see how we can fine tune it. Okay, maybe I increase the duration just by a little bit. There are some unnecessary elements, so I'm just going to group them. Yeah. Similarly for this, removing all sort of unnecessary elements around here. Okay, I think it might not be doing what it's ideally supposed to. Let's give it a try one more time. Okay, I think uh, let me see what the issue could be here. Let's start with a very basic layout to understand what the interaction looks like. So I'm just going to uh, convert this into a frame, this too, and I'm going to add this as a small element here. So I'm going to link this frame to this one and understand what the issue could be. I'm also going to remove in the prototype section. I'm going to remove the uh, mockup. Clicking here. This is I'm going to select move in. Let's see what that changes for us. Okay, this is what we wanted. So if one animation is not giving you the results that you were hoping for, you can always try a different layout. This is what is working for us now. All right. So now we will start with designing a web page. But for starters, let's work with the top navigation of any website. So, for example, if I go to a site like Pexels, you can see that this is the top navigation. Over there, they have the logo. They have an explore section in which they have a couple of their verticals listed down, a page about licenses, some basic pages that are standard in every site. The social languages, help center, login, and of course, join takes you again to the login page, login sign up page. So let's just take a screenshot of this and understand what all is required to make a top navigation. So I'm just going to place it here so that we have an idea. Now the size of this particular top navigation, I personally prefer it to be close to 90. We can see what it looks like in the preview mode. Okay, let's play it again. So this is what it looks like. So of course this looks a little bulky when we see it, but because most of it is going to be negative space, empty space, we can reduce it as and when required. So I'm just going to add a placeholder for a logo which will go here. You can see that I have added a margin of 50, that this is the zero axis point, and the distance from 0 to this container is 50. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a couple more placeholders for sections like about, but this is going to be slightly less in width, and repeating it a bit more. These will all text placeholders, so maybe they can have reduced height as well. I'm going to add one more button which will be your login or sign up, but this time the button's width will be 200. Actually 200 is a bit much, maybe reduce it to 160. And moving all of these, creating them in an auto layout. Now I think for the button the size might be a little smaller, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the height of it. For web I think 46 is good enough, and yeah, now I'm going to select both of these, centrally align them even with the background, and create an auto layout between these two elements, the logo and the three placeholders that I have. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one more layer of auto layout and centrally align this, and I think maybe I can add the properties of the internal auto layout. I'm going to just remove this. It's control or command shift and G. So you see that the layout broke a little bit. Not to worry, selecting the outermost auto layout, aligning the assets horizontally, and giving them the maximum width that my layout has to offer. I'm going to keep the margins on both sides 50, so you can see that they've adjusted themselves. Now we also want to understand what we need to do when we create the same website for a web page, sorry, a mobile page. So if I just resize this, it will kind of hide all of my assets. So that is not what I want to do. I want my entire page to be responsive, and regardless of the size, it should accommodate my design in itself. So what I'm going to do for that, I'm going to take my frame, convert this into auto layout as well. So it's very simple. Select any layer and add auto layout. It is just shift A. So that is what I've done. Let's resize it. Nope, still not working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the width of this file, select fill container. So let's take it step by step and understand how this changes. So I can see that my navigation is changing size. The buttons are visible, but they are overlapping with each other and going out of the container. So what I need to do now is I need to wrap them so that now that my design, when it breaks in two lines. Okay, so I need to give them a margin of 20. Let's see if it breaks. It is going in the bottom line, but the height also needs to uh, hug the contents this time. So now I think what I need to do is wrap this particular area as well, because these three buttons are going out of bounds. So maybe what I need to do is create this in my layout. Let's see what this looks like. Okay, I think because I created the layout to break in two lines, what I will need to do is maybe add this section a little centrally aligned. So let's see what this looks like. It's breaking in two lines. Okay, this is good enough, I think. And if I'm reducing it more, then it kind of gives me three lines, three layers. Most people don't particularly keep these sections in the mobile view. They usually add it in a kebab menu, but because we are just showing it to understand better how the working of auto layout is like, so I think this is good enough for that. All right, so I think now we can kind of start adding colors and shapes to whatever we've been creating. So for example, I had my logo as a placeholder over here. I'm just going to change the color so that it's visible on this, and this will be my button. So let's just give it a good margin. I'm going to take the color that I had selected over here, probably add it to the library. Okay. Now I think before I started creating this as a button, I should have added text. So I'm going to do it now. The text will say login. 16 seems like a good enough size for it. Selecting both, adding auto layout, and removing the older asset that we had. Now instead of these three, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add, this is my about I think the size for the secondary actionables can be reduced. This will be my explore, and this will be help. So I'm just going to see if this is aligning with the three placeholders that I had kept. And yep. So we don't necessarily need to add a background to all of this, but I've done it. The gap between them is 30. I'm going to change the gap. Now I'll tell you why I've added a background to this. But first I'm going to change the background of the navigation to white, add a drop shadow. So I personally prefer a very minimal drop shadow, not too in the face. And whenever one of these pages is active, it can have a very slight hint of green behind it. Now, because my corner radius for my primary button, my CTAs, is 100%. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to add that over here, reduce the opacity of the buttons that are not active, and maybe make them a little less prominent. Yep. So this is what my top navigation looks like right now. I think it will be better if my logo had some sort of a name next to it as well. Let's see if we can add a name. And I think we can change the logo somehow. Okay, I'm going to just add these two colors as our primary and secondary. This can just be my placeholder logo for now. Okay, keeping it next to, and this is my ABC will be the name of the company. I think I can increase the size of this a little bit. Changing this into a vector. Maybe the color can be what we had for the previous design. This can be my placeholder logo. Okay, I think I might need to change this to a darker shade of green because that is the color theme that I want to continue in the rest of the pages, which is basically shades of green, which will be my primary. I think I can maybe rotate this a bit. Let's see what this looks like. Decrease the size, align them again. Okay, not too bad. I mean, it's something, it's just a placeholder logo, so doesn't really matter what it looks like. Let's go to preview mode to see what the size looks like. Okay, I think I need to put this in play. I think we can increase the size of the logo. Right now it's just way too small. And maybe the gap between them could be 8 so that they look more close to each other. Okay, I think this is a good enough start. I'm going to just keep it like this because I don't particularly want to create the explore page, but just so you have an understanding of what this looks like. Decreasing the margins so that it's consistent for everyone. Now I'm going to reduce so this is what probably a tab view will look like, and reducing the size furthermore. Okay, these are breaking in a decent way. Yeah, I think this looks okay. I'm just going to bring it back to the original web size. All right, I'm going to drag this image, but I don't want it to take the entire space, so I'm going to crop it a little bit. Okay, now the gap between these two assets is 10. I want it to be -4, and I want my going to convert this into a frame again, because designing in auto layout is a little difficult. It's not the easiest. So what I personally prefer is designing in a frame first and then adding auto layout to it. So okay, I'm going to just add move my image so that there is a little more context over here, and maybe the top section can have the same context, but this time, because my image is not quite appropriate to add text behind it or over it, because it has a light background. So what I want to do is maybe go to effects, maybe add some noise to it. So I think this is a bit much. Maybe I can, yeah, but my text is still not prominent enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add a layer of black, reduce the opacity, layer blur 50, and let's see, it's still a little much, it's very clearly visible. That is not what I want. Yeah, I think this is making it a little better, but maybe we can just keep it like this. So because my subtext is not quite visible over here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just centrally align the title and increase the size a little bit. Additionally, what you can also do is add a drop shadow effect in which your X is 0, and maybe you can do something like this, so that it's not quite like a boundary, but at the same time it is making your text stand out. Okay, so yeah, now let's see if I can add this in auto layout and reshape my text with it. Okay, so this has kind of taken a back seat to it. I'm going to create this in a frame and then add auto layout. All right, now let's see if the page shifts with this. I think I'm going to have to do all the exercises again because I removed auto layout from this fill containers. Okay, because this is an isolated layer now, I had to change this. Some assets are a little difficult to manage, for example this one. So what I'm going to do is take them both out and group them and then add. Okay, so adjusting the height to hug the contents, and yep, I'm just going to make sure that this stays in the center. So I think our original size was 511512. Okay. All right. Bringing this a little to the center. Now I want to have a section that kind of explains what this application will do. So I'm just going to bring this section here, creating it again, removing the auto layout, adding the background color to my frame, changing the text color back to what it was originally. But this time, maybe I don't really want to have such a big size to my font. So maybe I can go for 38. Okay. This can be my subheading, which can be of 22 size. So in order to get ideas for the copy, because it is important to be able to explain your design without using so many words. I mean, if you are creating a design and even though you shared the design with somebody who you gave a walkthrough of, for example, if you designed these two screens for somebody, and you told them that this is the interaction when you click here, or after some delay this page will automatically open up. That is great. All the interactions are there, all the buttons are there. We will have multiple variations of the buttons to help the whoever is requested the design, or even the developer. It will be pretty easy for them to understand. But what if instead of adding text, we had used sentences from the site liptum.com? So what they have is they have dummy content that designers had been using for a long time to use to add, like, just some sort of a placeholder that this is where your text will go. So now, because we are designers, we're not particularly copywriters, so we don't really know what to write here. But showing somebody our design, when our design looks something like this, it kind of breaks the context. The user or the person who is reviewing the design later on probably won't really have as much context to the work that you've done, that you've put so much effort in creating, interacting with. So instead of adding dummy content, it is always better to have some sort of idea of what the product is about. It doesn't need to be, the best copy in the world. So I think in order to do that, if you don't think that you're entirely confident with the copy that you have written, be it an e-commerce site or a tours and travels site or a healthcare site or an application, anything, just refer to ChatGPT, upload a screenshot of whatever you've made, and ask ChatGPT, Perplexity, or Gemini to give you copy for the placeholder content. Just help them understand, help the system understand what you are trying to build, and it will give you contextual copy for all of this. So that is something that is, I think, very important as designers, to know how to sell your design, how to convince people that the design that you've made is foolproof. And you cannot always be there when they are going through the design, because once you've shared the link, so this is how you share a link: copy the link. So anybody who has access to this link can view all the design that you've made in all the pages. If you want to share a prototype version, you can share it directly from here and copy the link. This is where you access the prototype mode, and this is where you can share the prototype with a couple of people. All right, so yeah, as I was saying that because you won't always be with the people who are reviewing the design, so text is important to help set the context. All right, now let's create some sort of a visually appealing infographic. It doesn't need to have, stats or numbers or something. It can just have images, a bunch of images that are kind of explaining what you are trying to say over here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just bring back some copy for this. Just a moment. Okay, I gave ChatGPT a prompt to give me a copy for an application that does what we are trying to do, and this is what it gave me. So I think this is good enough to be our title. The world is loud. Your phone doesn't need to be. Which I think really explains the core essence of what we are doing. Uh, Quiet isn't something you find, it's something you choose. Again, quite good. So I have these three text uh, types. So I just need to establish a hierarchy between these three. This I think I need closer to my body text. I think maybe I can reduce the M dash. Yeah, I can probably increase the gap between these two and have my primary CTA over here. But this time, because this is going to be visible in the first scroll itself, so it doesn't need to be a primary CTA, it can be a secondary CTA. When I say secondary, I mean that it doesn't need to have as much weightage given to it as my primary. Maybe I can increase the stroke weight to 1.5. Okay, adding it in the same auto layout. So check out the magic. So instead of capitalizing first letter of everything, I can just go to these filters and select title case. Now you can see that my text is kind of going out of bounds. So what I'm going to do is hug contents, and because I had given a margin padding of 58, which I think I can reduce to 30, so it will automatically adjust according to the margins that I've given. Now I need to add some sort of images, so let's see what this will look like. I'm going to just add some sort of placeholders over here, and I'm going to go back to pixels and nature. I'm going to add a bunch of nice calm looking images and add them to set the context. Maybe one with somebody meditating. Okay, I think this is a good one. So you have to understand that the images that you're using, they also have to be contextually right. I mean, I can't just add this sort of an image in my design because it doesn't really make sense, although there's a video. But the point is that this is kind of like a chaotic scene. I mean, people are walking about, they're talking to each other, all of that is great, but it doesn't necessarily depict the message that is disconnect from your surroundings or from your device, and sorry, not disconnect with your surroundings, disconnect with your device and focus on your surroundings. So this doesn't necessarily give me that feeling. That vibe isn't quite there, nor is this, it's a celebration, it's a wedding. It doesn't necessarily work with what we are trying to do. So again, going back to the meditation theme that we want to follow. So I think I have a bunch of images now, so I'm just going to start populating them here. Okay, let's see. So I selected, I think, 5 images. Yeah. So this is the first image. So I selected all of them. I can just place them right here, but I think I wanted to fit them directly in my space. So what I'm going to do is select 4. I think I accidentally selected 5 last time. And you can see the first image is more, it has more height. It is sort of like, a vertical image, vertical orientation of this image. So I'm going to drop it here. Next is landscape, it goes here. This one probably here, and this. Okay. Now, because my corner radius has edges, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some sort of roundness to the assets and adding auto layout. So now they have 30-30 margin amongst themselves. Maybe I would need to increase the height a little bit so that this one is aligned properly. Okay, all right, this looks good. I think I might want to switch these two because this is again these two images are too similar. Guys sitting on a cliff, a girl sitting on the edge and meditating. All right, now what I want to do is I want to add them in an auto layout and change their gap. So you can see that the gap between these two is kind of aligned with my top navigation. Okay, now let's do the difficult part, which is resizing this page so it fits in a tablet and it fits in a mobile as well. I don't think it's going to do that right now because we have changed it back to a frame. I'm adding auto layout and adding these two in an auto layout with 0 gap in them. Let's see. Okay, something is happening, but my entire screen is being shifted. That is not what I want. I want my assets to fill the container. Now it is reducing the size a little bit, but maybe I would want to remove the text for now because that is just adding a level of complexity to my design. So my top navigation is behaving okay. I'm just going to hug the contents. Yeah, this area I need to wrap so that when the size is 1512, it is looking okay. But when it starts to scale down, my design should ideally break in 2 sections. So let's see if it's working. It's not. So what I need to do is I need to fill the containers, maybe give margin of 50, and yeah, it's working now, but it is only working up to a certain point. So maybe in this situation I think I could have probably given them a gap of 10. Okay, that works. But yeah, so what I'm trying to say is sometimes your content doesn't necessarily is not necessarily designed for a scale smaller than a particular size. So in that case, what you can do is add a minimum width. So what I do is I add a minimum width of 800. So in that case, my design can scale up, but it won't scale down less than 800. It will stop at this point. That is how you understand the constraints of a design. So if I'm going back to 1512, this is working fine, but you can see that the constraint, the minimum height or width restriction that I've added, it stops at this point. So this is how, and I can add a maximum width which is 1512. So my design will not scale up Uh, wait, I had just I 512. I had to add it here. Okay. So now my design won't move beyond 1512 and not below 800. So this is how you kind of protect the integrity of the designs that you've made so far. Now, apart from this, there are certain plugins. For example, Lottie plugins is something that I personally prefer a lot. But before we get into adding or using plugins in our design, let's see how to install a plugin, which is again fairly simple. Go to Manage Plugins. You will see a list of plugins over here. So you can just search for any plugin, the name if you remember, or you can just search, go through the list and find out what works for you. So I've searched for Lottie. I'm going to run this plugin. And I want to add a GIF of sorts in this CTA. So I'm just going to search for magic. And it has given me a bunch of options. So these are all magic related. I need to see which one works for me the most. Maybe in the first one, I think this probably works. Insert as a GIF, and okay, maybe later, and download. Oh, okay, I had to probably log in. Just a second while I log in. Okay, I think it should work now. Oh, it's taking forever. It doesn't usually take this long. I think it might have something to do with uh, my login process. I'm just going to select a different kind of GIF. I like the 3 stars that they had, so maybe something around that. Maybe this one. Insert it as a GIF. Transparency. So these, you can only insert a GIF uh, of this small size. Medium and large are for paying members. So I'm just going to click on insert. Yep, it's here now. Reducing the size a little bit, adding it in my design. Now let's see what this looks like in prototype mode. This is not going to change my design drastically, but it's something. It's a start. You can see that now there is some sort of uh, interaction that is happening. The user will be more engaged as opposed to just adding simple text. Alright, so this is how we design a web page.